when talking about the Finals MVP, I think you really nailed it with the voters looking at Jaylen's impact and responsibility of having to set the tone with Luka. And, we got some really great sound bites from Jaylen Brown in that game 5. I know you were obviously in there. I'm sure maybe you've seen them on social media where, he's telling Joe, if Luka's in, I'm in. If Luka wants the ball, he's going to have to bring it up. If he lets go of that ball, I'm not letting him get it back. And there's different things of Jaylen Brown really taking that onus on. I know right after the game, I kind of compared it to this is a superior version of Andre Iguodala winning the MVP award in the sense that Jaylen Brown was damn near close to being on par with Jason Tatum offensively, but it was his defensive responsibilities, which in that case it was Iguodala with LeBron, and in this case it was Jaylen and what he was doing with Luka to, as you said, harass him the best way that a human being can, because Luka is that type of dude where, I mean, if you just look at points, rebounds, and assists, and even those are a little bit lower than what we expect, they're still pretty crazy numbers, right? Because Luka's going to find a way to get to some of those. And so I think that's where it lends itself that Jaylen got a few extra votes over Tatum. What I'm curious to ask you, and I'm going to ask you to kind of speculate. You can speak for yourself, but also I'm curious as like the media as a whole. What do you think this championship, and a lot of it's going to be focused on what it does for Tatum, because Tatum's that guy that's in that top 5. And, I think I heard someone say this the other day. I thought it was really great that right now the NBA is so talented. There's probably about 8 top 5 guys. I'm with you. I think Tatum's solidified in that 4 or 5 spot somewhere. Like, he's in that top 5. You don't even need to qualify it. But I'm curious, what do you think this does for a guy like Jaylen Brown, who just missed out on All NBA this last season? I'm curious to know, from a reputation, from a narrative standpoint through the media, what winning Eastern Conference Finals MVP followed up with the NBA Finals MVP, and all the questions that lingered in the offseason of, is this guy a $300 million? And of course, the market's the market. Like, some people understood that. Other people would just see the number and question, is Jaylen Brown worth that money? Well, Banner 18's here, so damn, and he won the Finals MVP. So number one, yes, I think he's worth it. But I'm curious, what do you think this does for Jaylen Brown's reputation and narrative in the media going forward?
I would hope that it lifts it, and you don't want to make too much of, like, I really agree with a lot of what Brad Stevens said when it comes to he's very process over results oriented in his mindset. And so, after they won it all, he said, this doesn't really change a lot of how I view Jaylen or Jason Tatum. They don't need to actually win the championship to validate just the type of players that they are. And I think that there's a lot of truth there, because what people forget is that it's a team game. And so, like you think about all the shots that Michael Jordan's teammates hit in the finals when he passed them the ball, and if like that shot doesn't go in, then he loses 2 finals. He could lose 2. You know what I mean? So it's a team game first and foremost. So sometimes like the results of a team versus team don't go a certain player's way, despite a player impacting winning possession by possession by possession. They shouldn't be punished for that. That said, the world we live in, when you do win a championship, you are viewed differently. And to win Finals MVP, there are so many people who have been alive who can say that they are a Finals MVP, and it forever changes how you're perceived. And I think that when you look at, like, for me, Jaylen's, hitting the shot in game 3 over Tim Hardaway Jr. when they were up, to put them up 4 with like 40 something seconds left. Like, that's a shot. Like, that's just like, he hit that shot. You can't ever take that away. Hitting the corner 3 over Pascal Siakam in game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Right. That's a shot. That's like, it's just, you can't really put it all time.
It's in the highlight reel that, if he is to continue to the Hall of Fame, that's one of the main shots that you're going to see. Like, when you think of, and when you speak of Jaylen Brown, and when you speak of the playoffs, those are all going to be in that mix.
Yeah, humongous stuff. The on-ball defense we already talked about on Luka. The just ferocity he played with attacking the basket. It's funny because he wasn't particularly efficient in the finals either, but he did a lot of little things and he made a ton of winning plays in a way that he wasn't doing. To be frank, like even last year, I was at Game 7 against the Miami Heat. He was horrendous. He was a total mess.
It
I
was a
think he
rough
had
one.
8 turnovers in that game. And so having the confidence to have the ball as much as he does, um, a lot of their offense was Jaylen calling up a switch, calling up Luka. In the first 2 games, particularly, and I should say the first 3 games, I mean, Luka couldn't stay in front of Tatum, but he like forget about staying in front of Jaylen. And Jaylen, when he
Right.
beat him, made a ton of really smart decisions and reads, and he was amazing. So we do a top 100 ranking at the Ringer, and we just had a meeting yesterday to kind of set our post-finals ranking, which should be coming out very soon. And I won't spoil where Jaylen is, but he was in the top 30 last time, and he's safely in the top 20 now. So he jumped up.
Significant jump.
He
Quite a
made us
significant jump, it sounds like.
Yeah, he made as big of a jump as anybody, I think, in our list. And look, like you can I agree with parts of what Brad said, where it's like this guy was awesome all season long. I voted him
Right.
to be on my third team All NBA.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was incredible, coming off the huge contract, being better,
Right.
um,
And I actually have a
coexist.
question for you
Sure.
on that. And you know, because this is kind of where the origin of this question came for me. Is, you know, I absolutely, I'm with you. I clearly I don't have a vote, but I obviously really thought Jaylen should have been second or third team. And I was very surprised that he didn't get any second team consideration. I thought certainly around that 9-10 spot. I thought he might get some second team consideration. All of his votes were third team NBA. But when I was thinking about how does the, you know, media world for Jaylen Brown change going forward, is I think if everything were the same next year at the end of the season when we're voting for all NBA and people are teetering, is Jaylen Brown second or third team? I think now when you get, and this is to the victor go the spoils, when you're like, man, am I really going to leave Eastern Conference Finals and Finals MVP Jaylen Brown off of my All NBA ballot, even if he sacrifices, you know, he made all the sacrifices statistically, and some of that was in consideration. But I think if the way the voting turned out this year is now next year with him being a champion, I think there's no doubt in my mind that he makes one of those All NBA teams, and that's for me where I think things will change for the Jaylen Brown discussion or discourse going forward. Is like you said, he's going to make a jump from just under 30 to now he's going to be closer to 15 in the Ringer rankings. And, you know, I think if there's any kind of question of who am I going with, you're going with the champion. You're going with the finals MVP. And so I think next year, if he finds himself in a similar All NBA situation, he will 100% find himself getting the nod or getting the benefit of the doubt versus not, which is what I think happened this year.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. It shouldn't be that way, right?
Right.
But I do think that a lot of voters, you know, if you're, it's a tie goes to the runner sort of
Mm-hmm.
situation, which is what you're describing. And if someone like, you know, Domantas Sabonis is not to crap on him because I had him on my third team as well, but
Right. But there's a
if
bunch of guys, whether it's even Devin Booker, who I think is awesome. But I mean, you know, the Suns underachieved this entire year, and they got two guys on the All NBA. So if you're like, all right, we got to put Durant. Durant's clearly a second team guy. You know, I do think there's going to be, and like you said, it probably shouldn't be this way, but in reality, this is going to be the thought process for a lot of people. Is, you know what, I'm going to go with Jaylen Brown because, you know, he won Finals MVP, even though it has nothing to do with what's going to happen in the particular season they're voting for All NBA. I do think that is going to lean some more voters based on reputation that he's going to get the nod in situations like that.
yeah, I think that's totally fair. I did leave Devin Booker off of my All-NBA team, and part of it was the teams underachieving. I wrote this piece earlier in the season that I got absolutely killed for. Like, the headline was something like Devin Booker's the best point guard in the NBA. And he was playing great at the time in that role,
Yeah.
but, just no, that was a swing and a miss on my part. And I think that when I watched, the playoffs, it was a really short series in the first round, but a lot of that was how I felt was validated when it comes down to how important defense is, how important, just like if you aren't doing one thing, like the thing that this is why I don't put too much stock in shot making, because if you're not making the shots and you're a tough shot maker, okay, what are you doing then? And it's not like Devin Booker doesn't impact winning in a lot of ways, of course. But in that series, it was like the first 3 games, he's getting taken out of it by Jaden McDaniels. And it's like, okay, well, this team has no chance now. If you're not going to average 28, 29 efficiently, and you can't do that. And so seeing that was really, if I'm comparing these two players, like I honestly, right now, today, I don't know who's the quote unquote better player. I don't know if you were to take a poll of all the GMs in the league, who they would rather have on their team right now, frankly, just because Jaylen has done it.
Right.
Jaylen has, particularly on the defensive end, like Jaylen did it on the defensive end. He assumed so many different, I think, if anything, next year when we look at all defensive teams, I think reputationally he will have made a huge jump in that department with voters, and that could be an
That's a
area
great
where you
point.
see him maybe get some more votes and maybe crack a team, to be honest. But part of what makes the Celtics so great is, like, to me, I had Drew. Did I have Drew on my team? I don't even remember if I had Drew on one of my all defensive teams, but it's like Drew made it, Derek White made it. And then, like, I think that Jason Tatum, before he retires, he'll make an all defensive team. I think he's like an incredible defensive player, and the biggest adjustment that the Mavericks made from games 1 to game 2 was like, we're gonna just play our basketball and have whoever's guarding a big set a ball screen. And it's like, well, if you do that, then Jason Tatum's going to switch on to you. So good luck with that strategy. And it didn't really work out for them. So
yeah, I think the Celtics really need the NBA to go to 3 all defensive teams, because that was part of my thing was like, listen, guys, there's only 10 spots. Like, we're probably going to get 2. They're not going to squeeze 3 or 4 on here. And of course, Drew and Derek got the nods here.